Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. We broadcast 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time, right here on Genesis Communications Network. If you'd like to listen live, you can go to GCN, as in Genesis Communications Network, the word live, L-I-V-E, GCNlive.com. Okay, so Jason is helping me today, side by side. He is engineering the broadcast. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up and running, 712-770-9418, 712-770-9418. And that's provided by Global Star. And Global Star is kind enough to put us on their satellite. And they transmit us wide coverage all over North America. And I really appreciate that. Even Central America. So I've got some tips for today, and I've got a question for you. Do you know of anyone who has had the coronavirus? Or do you know anyone who died of the coronavirus? Or do you know anyone who has had it in their family? Or had someone in the family succumb to coronavirus? The reason I'm asking is there's still a number of people that do not believe that the coronavirus is real. I have not changed my position one iota. I believe it is absolutely real. I also believe that there's a plethora of theories that some or all could be true as to what's happening. You know, the takedown of the presidency, the takedown of the financial system, the resetting of these numerous bubbles that were inflated, that are popping. And so if you know of anyone, we don't need to know their names, but it'd be nice to know if there's some of our class that has firsthand knowledge of people succumbing to the coronavirus, whether they have been taken out and killed by it, loved ones, family, friends, coworkers, etc. If you've been laid off as a result of it, we'd love to hear your story. If you have been furloughed, fired, your store has been closed temporarily or permanently, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your story. 866-582-9933 is the number. Now, if you're a little bit nervous about calling in, please keep this in mind. I was terrified to speak in public in elementary school, high school, college, and even postgraduate. Absolutely terrified. And I didn't want to do it. And I avoided all of it. And then I wanted to teach people about preparedness. So I had to do it. And after you do it for the first time, it is no big deal. Literally, no big deal. As a matter of fact, today, I got a call just before the broadcast that Dr. Richard Allen Miller would not be on the air with me. He called me. He said he's tired. He needs a little bit more rest. He says he's fine, but he's tired. And he would like to take another few days to rest. So with virtually no time to prepare for this broadcast, here I am. So what I'm saying is if I can do it, you can do it, right? I was prepared to talk with Rick. I had some questions that he would be the expert in answering, but he's not here. So you can step up. You can step up and place that call and let us know what you think about the coronavirus and how it's impacted you and your family, if it has. I believe it has. So we've got a caller. I don't know who it is. I have a call screen. The way this works is I have a number of telephone lines that I can see, and I have buttons that I can click. And one of them is answer. Another one is hold. So I can answer the phone. I can put the person on hold. I can put them on the air, or I can drop them. And in this box for each one of these telephone lines, it will have an area that says, Tom from Sheboygan. He wants to talk about chemtrails, that kind of a thing. So I don't see who it is, so I can't really answer, and it could be even a wrong number. So I'd prefer not to answer the phone cold. So that's what our engineer Jason does. He'll answer the phone and say, hi, this is USA Prepares. May I have your first name and the state you're calling from and the topic? And the reason that he puts the topic in there is so that I get a clue as to what the student is calling about or the instructor is calling about. Okay, so what did I do yesterday for the preparing for the corona panic? Well, my hair's getting long. It really is. I haven't had a haircut in months. And I've had long hair in the past, but normally I have a banker's haircut. And normally, if you just type in my name on the internet, that's what I look like. Short hair, kind of a banker's haircut. You'll see an image of me with headphones on, and that's the only image that's really out there. Well, that's what I look like. Maybe a little bit older than that, because that picture is probably, maybe 8 years old, something like that, 7, 8, 9. So I decided to get some books. And I bought a book on how to cut hair. Because not only is my hair getting longer, Mrs. Finelli's is getting longer, and our boys who live with us, one's in his 20s, late 20s, the other's in his 30s, they live here. We're all locked down at the farm, and we're trying to keep the farm. We're trying to save the farm, literally. And so we're not spending any money frivolously. And I bought a book on cutting hair, and it was $3.99 shipped on eBay. And it tells me how to cut hair. It's got pictures in it, and it's, over 100 pages. So you might want to consider getting a book on doing the same thing, how to cut hair. Of course, you need scissors to do that as well. So the question is, do you know anybody who's sick? Do you know anybody who has died? Do you have any firsthand stories? We'd love to hear them. So, Joey in Michigan, welcome.
Hey, good morning, Vince. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I really am. And it's so good to hear your voice. It really is. I wanted to tell you, Joey, weeks ago I was out in the yard, and I had this long rod, and it's about 20 pounds, and it's maybe 1.5 inches in diameter. And it's a real long pry bar, maybe 6 feet long, with a pointed end. It's not like a spear, but it's rounded at one end. And it rained and rained and rained, and I slammed it into the ground around the perimeter of 4 plants, and they are rhododendron plants. And I fertilized them. And those are the 4 rhododendrons that you gave me to remember our family, my mother, my wife, our son, and Mrs. Finelli. And every time I walk out there, I think of you, and I want to thank you for that. It was very kind of you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I could do that, because you know what? Most people wouldn't even think about doing that for somebody else.
Right. That's exactly right. And so, my mom had a garden when she was alive, near the back door. And I go out there, every time I go out there, I see my mom's garden. And she used to sit in her garden. I mean, she had a little couple chairs and table, and she could have a glass of iced tea out there or a cup of coffee and sit under the tree, which was overhanging this. This was a rose garden in her flower bed. And there they are on the perimeter of it, and they look just great. So I wanted to thank you. So, Joey, let me tell you a story. And I mentioned that we're looking forward to hearing from people who know someone who has the coronavirus, who's been impacted by it, a family member. Have they lost their jobs? And so yesterday, during the broadcast, we were talking about that, and I called Marty Barrett. And Marty Barrett is a USA Prepares instructor. She teaches biology. And, I talk to her every once in a while, every few days. And she mentioned to me that 3 of her students had the coronavirus. And I reported that. And during the broadcast, during the break, I called her up and I said, hey, Marty, I mentioned this. Is it okay if I mention it on the air? And she said, yeah. And she said that I didn't say it was Marty Barrett at the time. She said I could mention that. And 3 of her students have the coronavirus. And 2 of them are in their 20s and one's in their 40s. That's one story. Then the next story is last night I decided after dinner, I decided to call one of our credit card companies, which is Discover. And I'm sure lots of you have Discover cards. And so I called and I said to the gal, what would happen if I were unable to pay our credit card bill, our monthly statement? What would happen? I said, we have always paid it. We have never not paid it. We always zero it out every month. We don't carry a balance. What would happen if now we couldn't? She said, well, it depends on the reason. She said, well, if it's a coronavirus related, what we would do is we would let you have 3 months where we would waive all the fees, but not the interest. So late fees and those type of fees, they would not charge you. They would suspend those. But the interest would continue running. So the only thing that they're doing is not coming after you for not paying, and they're waiving just the late fees. And I said, what happens after that, after those 3 months? She said, well, we'd refer that to a specialist, and the specialist would help you and talk to you. And I imagine that maybe it would be something like, we really don't know what to do, so we're training people, and maybe the government would pay your credit card statement or, work with you or lend you money, or I don't really know, and I don't think they really know what that means. So that's kind of an unknown. And then I said, so are you in the United States or Philippines? She said she was in Arizona. Okay. So do you know of anybody who has had the coronavirus? Do you think it's real? She said, oh, yeah, it's real. One of her cousins just died of the coronavirus. Of course, I said I was very sorry to hear that. So that's the first person whom I've talked to who had a direct connection to the coronavirus, taking the life of a family member. Your thoughts, Joey?
Vince, I have a lot of thoughts. Is there a virus? Absolutely. How bad is it? I have no idea. Is it as bad as they say? I can't trust 1 ounce of information that I'm hearing. I've talked to hundreds of people in the last couple of weeks. People that work at big box stores, big chains. Some have 300 people at a store. Some have 500 under smaller stores. The one thing I noticed, I asked them, how many people are sick? None. He says, well, no, somebody's got to be sick. We don't know anybody. There's, what do you want to call it? We're going to a break?
Yes, we're going to a commercial break, first one. And I see Brandon in Michigan is calling as well. So Brandon's on hold. And so Joey says that no one he knows, no one he's talked to, knows anyone who has the coronavirus. Do you? We'll be right back. Plus, we're talking about the corona panic. Joey in Michigan's with us, USA Prepares instructor. And we've got Brandon in Michigan on hold. Brandon, please stay with us. We will get to you. Joey, in your state, over 25% of the Michigan workforce filed for unemployment so far. That's an enormous number of people. Actually, more than 1 million people, over a quarter of Michigan's workforce has filed for unemployment. It's pretty hard hit, isn't it, Michigan?
Well, everywhere's hard hit. I mean, we have a governor that seems to be, she's really angry she didn't get to have her 70 days of quarantine. And after the first 2 weeks, April 7th? She said, no, you guys don't have to come in, the House and the reps, the Senate and the reps for the state. And they voted 23 more days. She said, no, we'll have 70 days. I don't know much about it. My internet's been down for about almost 2 weeks now. But the things I would ask, because I'm not a very smart person, not like a governor, great intellectual. One thing I know is that people that never work for themselves do not know what it takes to survive. When you're always getting a paycheck, like community activator organizers, any person that ever got a government check and never had to produce, like a farmer that might lose his farm because nobody can sell the cows for him because they can't butcher them because they closed all down. When you're a subhuman and you're in a public arena and you think that, money just keeps coming out, how do they say the phrase, socialism works as long as the money they're taking from somebody else runs until it runs out? That makes a great point. But the questions I would have is, all the state people are still working. If you go through a community and there's leaves on the side of the road, city workers pick the leaves up, the tree branches. Every community I've driven through, I kind of question that. Last week I seen new signs out, road construction starting April 13th. Okay. So again, it must be the coronavirus is smart enough. It knows if you're working on state highway projects, roads, if you're putting in telecommunications, those people are allowed to work. How is it that the virus knows not to give those people the virus? How is that? I mean, you really got to ask, because I'm asking a real ignorant, I'm phrasing it very ignorantly, so that even somebody could say, wow, yeah, how come the government worker can work and he doesn't get the virus, but everybody else should stay at home? She claims she doesn't want people paying their house, even if they're in their own yard. I was told for Easter a family had 5 cars in their yard. So the police came to tell them to disband the Easter party. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. All those people live here. And so everybody had to pull their ID out and show that that's their house residence. So there's, the modern family, the father with a couple of kids, the mother with a couple of kids. So that makes a group. And everybody of a couple of kids are old enough to drive. So, everybody's got a car. So now they're a criminal because there are 5 cars at a house. So at what point you have to step back and ask a question? Again, I said, I'm not saying this is fictitious. I believe it's a real virus. How bad it is, I can't answer that because I don't trust the information. And when I watch, when they were setting up all these facilities in New York and Chicago, and the military was setting these triage systems up, one thing I noticed, why is it the military, again, they weren't afraid. They didn't have face masks on. They didn't have goggles on. They didn't have any protective gear on. They were just wearing their regular digital camo clothes. You have to question how this is working. And you have to ask more questions. You were talking about how hard it is to farm. Well, pretty soon it's going to get real hard to farm. I was listening to Ice Age Farmer 2 weeks ago before my internet went down, and he had a rancher on from Michigan. He says, I raise cows. He said, I'm going to be out of business. Then I can't raise cows because 2 of the bigger meat packing companies in Michigan shut down because apparently they have the virus. He had talked about Brazil and Argentina shutting down meat processing. Well, if you go into a dollar store, all the canned meats in those stores, if you look at where they come from, it's Argentina and Brazil. What do you think that means? What do you think's coming next?
All very, very good points. And I can even talk a little bit about raising beef in this market. It's terrifying. And let me see if we can get Brandon on at the same time that Joey's on. I'm going to ask Jason to do that for me. We'll be right back. So, Joey, you mentioned meat packers shutting down, and it's difficult to sell cows. That's absolutely correct. And so as a result of the 3 largest meat packers shutting down, I decided I would make some calls and see if we could sell a half a cow or a quarter of a cow. And yeah, we can. We can advertise that maybe on Craigslist and say, you want to buy a quarter of a cow. Here's about how much it weighs. Sell it by the live weight. And then each of maybe 2 or 4 people will own the whole cow. And then we can have it processed for them. They can pay for the processing, and then they can pick it up. We can do that. And I was talking to some people, and what they're finding out is, or what we're finding out is that a lot of the processors have gone under. They've stopped the business. And we've also found out that the market is really thin to try to sell cows because nobody wants them, because they don't know how to process them, because the processors have shut down because of the coronavirus. So it's a really bad situation. Let's see if we can put Brandon on. Brandon in Michigan, you're on with Joey in Michigan and me. Welcome.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, Brandon.
Good.
So, to change topics, I work for one of the largest paving companies in Michigan. I got a timeline.
One of the largest what?
Paving
One of the largest what? Dating?
Paving companies. You hear me all right?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So on the 6th of April, we were supposed to start. Then we were delayed. Then we were told we were non-essential. Then we were told we were essential. You know, it's only the roadways. So we had a startup meeting for the 15th, but they broke apart the crews into smaller groups. So I got it delayed another week. But from what I could understand, we had one coworker come down with the COVID, SARS-CoV-2 virus, nearly died. My boss just had a heart attack, and she's been coughing excessively in the startup meetings. They're both obese smokers, which doesn't help anything. Our company gave away the N95 masks that they had for us for the bag house where aggregates, accumulated into and batched up to healthcare workers for their safety. So we don't have any protective gear now on the front lines. They want us to wear a piece of cloth, basically, like a shirt to protect us. Now, in the startup meeting, the employer threatened our employees with termination if we become argumentative and disagree with the company policy. They also threatened to deny our benefits of unemployment if we become fired because they have lawyers waiting for something like this. Now, I'm trying to get a hold of other lawyers to figure out if this is even lawful for them to do. So that's the boat I'm in right now.
Brandon, I would think you should call the Attorney General because she's on everybody like Menards because they were supposedly selling unessential items like garden seeds and, they want to shut Menards down. And she should get right on this because I don't think anybody has the right to fire you because you put your health ahead of their business. And I would have to question the person that had the heart attack. So an old person, a young person, was the heart attack induced because of the virus? Because I don't know anybody. I don't know if you're on the east side, west side, middle of the state, but I know on the west side, more and more people, they were going back to work actually a week ago. I know a guy that just built a brand new repair shop, most impressive. And he had all this work lined up. It was a 4-week waiting list till they put the stay-at-home order on. All of a sudden, he's got nothing coming in. All of a sudden, everybody's, we've got money. We could make it till July, but we don't know how long this is going to go on. I was talking to a guy that they have a chain of, I will call them resale shops. And I won't mention the name, but he says, a large percentage, 3/4 of our people are 28 hours or less, and they don't qualify for unemployment. So those people now, they've been out of work for 4 weeks, and so that place is now using and buying food, giving it to their employees, because the state has reneged on helping these people out. So we're going to all be in a boat that we didn't build that's sinking, and it affects us. Just like Vince says, he can't get a cow processed or sold because nobody can process it. If you think that's going to be a problem, wait until you don't have any groceries. I mean, this thing snowballs, and we're a different group of people. Because, we're not people. Most people don't know what day it is. I'm listening to the radio because normally they go to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they know the day because that's the count in the last days. Ooh, weekend. Now, Google, the ad said Google's most number one search is what day of the week is it. That's pretty amazing because everybody's got a cell phone. And if you don't know, you can just look on the phone. It tells you the date right on the phone, and they can't do that. Yes, no?
Well, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Well, there's just a lot of concern going on right now. And, it's heck even trying to get a hold of a state employee or a lawyer right now because they're so backlogged. And let me tell you, the Attorney General for our state, she resembles the Wicked Witch of the West. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, she's a rectal thermometer inserter. She should be the insertion for the rectal thermometer. I got it. I mean, what she's done, what this whole crew has done, but I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm just pointing out people need to accept responsibility for themselves. And, if you're going to lose your house, if you lose your house, that means I'm going to lose my house. Once we all lose our house, guess what? We have nothing left to lose. So all of a sudden, there's a whole different attitude. You wake up in the morning, when they take away what little bit you have a whole different purpose to wake up. And it's not to fix a road. It's to fix a problem that should have never been escalated. That's my opinion.
Let me tell you, people are waking up too, because I was at the protest yesterday, and I've never seen a concerted effort of hard-working people with their company trucks, their personal vehicles coming through.
How many people would you guess were there?
20,000 plus.
Yeah, because on the media they said, maybe 5,000, because that's usually the media is to, pull everything down.
Brandon, you said 20,000 plus with their own vehicles. I saw the images of this. If you're talking about 3, 4, 5 cars wide, blocking traffic around the Capitol, what I saw were guys with some kind of a face mask, some with, some without. A number of them had AR-15s, AK-47s, 45 ACPs, 1911 strapped to their side. Is that what you saw as well?
Yes, sir. I didn't bring my AR-15. I brought a pitchfork for the symbols behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've done that. We've gone to had a couple van loads of guys that went to the state capitol, Jefferson City, Missouri, and we brought pitchforks too. And I tell you what, it was loud and clear. This is just the tip of the iceberg as to what's going to happen, and it seemed to have worked. Okay, so Brandon, what are your thoughts about the lockdown? Do you think there should be a lockdown? Do you think there should not be a lockdown? Do you think it should go back to business as usual? Do you think the virus is real? What do you think?
Well, obviously the virus is real. We're getting this from, genetic analysts that it's a SARS virus with 4 gain-of-function implants from the HIV virus, which is a fact. To say it's the extent that the media is pushing, I don't trust the media or the government. So really it's a confounding, confusing time right now. Nobody really knows,
And Dr. Shilley said that on Monday. He said we're being given conflicting information. It's very, very difficult to figure out what the truth is. And, for 5 years I had meetups, and I taught people how to save matches in a jar for 20 years. I mean, I'm being very simplistic with that. But we taught about gardening and all kinds of how to do things, do-it-yourself things. And then I decided I wanted to teach how to think and how to ferret out the news and how to do multiple searches for, research to validate claims. And they didn't want to hear that. The meetup group did not want to hear me teach them how to ferret out the truth. And it's becoming very, very difficult to figure this out. So we know that, for example, 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin or Minutia, or whatever his name is, the guy that's promising the checks in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks soon, any day now, that guy, he said that the 3.3 million people who filed for unemployment, that was insignificant. Then the next week it doubled to 6.6 million. Today, 3 weeks later, it's 22 million. That is significant. So what does that mean? That means people are going to stop paying their mortgage notes, their credit card bills, their car payments, their insurance payments. I mean, I called our insurance company yesterday, and we took all but the We just have 2 trucks insured now. All the cars gone. We have them, but we're not paying for insurance because we're not going anywhere. And so we just have 2 pickup trucks. One to haul a gooseneck and one to bail out that truck if it succumbs to a mechanical failure. So we are skinnying down to the absolute minimum. And I'm not saying that we're the only ones. I'm saying we are probably just typical of people who are trying to cut expenses. And as we cut expenses, we are going to cut the cable. We're going to cut, do we really need that post office box? Probably not. So let's forget that. Let's skinny down on all kinds of insurance. Do we really need the windshield damage insurance, for our car? Do we need comprehensive or do we just need liability? People are going to skinny down to the minimum. And this is going to drive us further, in my opinion, into the second Great Depression. Do you think that that's reasonable, Brandon, or do you disagree with that?
I think there's a polar spectrum of folks that, on one end, you've got people that are going to skimp out and live more frugally. On the other end, people are still in the mindset of the normalcy bias. And as soon as they get this stimulus check, I've already heard on radio shows this morning, they have plans on spending it on whatever they really want, not need.
I have heard the same thing. I've heard secondhand. I've heard through some of our instructors that, there's this gal. She's all excited. She's getting her stimulus check, and she's going to buy this new computer, and she's buying some video games for the children, and it's all earmarked, and it's ready to go. And that would be the furthest thing from my mind, buying video games and another computer. I mean, I would make what I have do, and I would get some seeds and maybe some fertilizer and make sure I have the tools to grow a garden, maybe a little bit of chicken wire to keep the predators away. Whatever it took for the long run, that's what I would do. And it would not be a cell phone, it would not be a computer, and it would certainly not be video games.
Well, seeds and chicken wire are deemed non-essential in this state, so good luck with that. We can't even protect our gardens from predators anymore.
Brenda, did you want to hold through the break?
Sure, if you want me to.
Yeah, and Joey, please hold through the break. Joey, your thoughts when we come back. This is USA Prepares, and we're trying to show you what's really happening. Class, let me give you some numbers, and I'd love to hear Joey's comments. So the population of the United States is currently about 328 million people. Of those 328 million, about 158 million are employed. So roughly half of the people in the United States are employed at some level. But in the last 30 days, 22 million of them have filed for unemployment. That's 14% of the people who were working just filed for unemployment. Now, I believe those numbers are low. I believe that it's more like 25% of the country is unemployed, because I believe the number, now these are official numbers from the 22 million unemployed filing for unemployment claims, but I think there's a backlog. So I think there are more people who are unemployed than these numbers are telling us. I think the real numbers are close to 25%, which is Great Depression numbers. Now, that's in 1 month. So what about next month and the month after and the month after? So this is historic. The number of unemployed people is historic right now. And I believe it will get worse. Joey, do you have any comments on any of the things that we've been saying?
Well, it's like the people and their money. How many times have you been to a fast food drive-up window because you didn't have time to cook dinner? Knowing you haven't even left your farm yet. But the point of my story is these people are spending $20 for a breakfast for a Sunday brunch. $20 per person. What kind of person can sustain that kind of spending? I know people that put everything in their credit card. They have no intentions of paying it off because they don't have a way to pay it off. Again, they're not the ones paying $20 for a breakfast brunch. They're the ones buying, a bag of rice, macaroni and cheese, those kind of items. But there's a real disconnect with these people because half of the people don't even know there's a problem. The problem, we're not even calling it the virus being a problem. we're calling it the economic disaster that's on the horizon. And at what point, who's going to buy a new car when most of the cars that they own are going to get repoed? I mean, this wheel, when it stops, nobody realizes what kind of energy it's going to take to get it moving. And there is
Joey, did you see the images of those food lines? We'll call them food pantries across the country, Florida, Arizona, Texas, etc.
No.
I mean, massive. Okay, you did not see them? Well, what maybe Brandon did, brand new cars. I mean, I drive a rust bucket. It's, the truck is a 2004, and it's, the rocker panels are rusted out, the wheel wells are rusted out. I didn't see anything like my truck in these bread lines. Brandon, how about you?
I didn't see any bread lines, but I will concur. I also drive a rusted out '07, good on gas mileage, little compact car.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So what is your take on these shortages, Brandon? Are you seeing shortages?
Well, yeah, there's shortages, of course, because, 2/3 of the distribution network is established for retail business only. When you have that large 1/3 sitting idly and not getting or receiving any produce or meat, this is a total revamping of the system that needs to happen. But now with the, that goes to restaurants and bars, approximately 1/3 of the food products would go to them. Now that they're not, this is a total shift we're experiencing.
Yeah, it's like the toilet paper shift. The industry, the toilet paper industry, was geared up toward people going to work, and at the toilets, if you will, or the bathrooms, whatever you want to call them, the restrooms, the stalls, they had the large rolls of toilet paper that were single ply, very, very large rolls, nothing like what we would have in our homes. So they were geared up to X percentage of manufacturing geared toward that, and the rest of the manufacturing toward, individual homes. Well, when people started shifting from going to work instantaneously to staying at home and allegedly working, the toilet paper industry didn't catch up. So there was instantly a toilet paper shortage. And, of course, there was some hoarding that went on as well. So we were not geared for this shift of the government, shutting down businesses. I believe that this coronavirus is real. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not buying any meat from any stores. And I'm very concerned about people who are careless bringing it to us through their carelessness and their recklessness, because, frankly, what I'm seeing is a lot of people are not paying attention. They're just flat out not paying attention. And people who work in supermarkets are terrified, absolutely terrified of the recklessness of their customers. But they're trapped because they've got mortgages and car payments to make. We can talk more about this when we come back after top of the hour news and commercial announcement. Brandon, did you want to hold? Joey, did you want to hold?
Yeah, I'll hang on.
If you so desire.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Yeah. And think about some stories that you'd like to share with us, man on the street type stories. We'd love to hear them from both of you, please. All right, this is USA Prepares. I'm Vin Finelli. We will be right back. We're dissecting the corona panic, and the panic is what's ensuing. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Hour number 2. Got 22s? Got shepherds? I'm a little stunned. I just heard the top of the hour news, and the president has just announced that this could be a bioweapon that escaped from Wuhan in the laboratory in China. And we've been saying that since January. So 4.5 months have gone by, and now the president just figures out that, hey, maybe this could be a virus that escaped. And here's why I'm saying this, class. I was on the phone with a guy recently, and he said he's watching the news, watching Fox News, and he's paying attention, and he's following what the president says. And I got to tell you, you can't follow what the president says, because the president has said and reversed many times things like we are going to lock down. No, we aren't. Yes, we are. It's a partial lockdown. No, there isn't. It keeps changing his mind by the second. So you can't put much stock in what you hear from the President of the United States. I'm not bashing him. I'm just telling you that my take on this is what he says is based on the last bunch of lobbyists he's talked to. Okay? So now he's got a bunch of lobbyists that are advisors. He's got people in the sports arena. He's got bankers. He's got Wall Street. He's got media friends. He's got Hollywood types. And they're all going to advise him on what to do about the lockdown. And it seems like it's about economics more than it's about safety. So, Joey, why don't you go first? Your thoughts, man on the street type things. What are you seeing? Have you been to any stores? Are you seeing any fear? Have you seen any masks? Are people just acting as if there's nothing going on? What do you see? What are you seeing?
I go to the store every day. I'm not going to sit at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and granted, I'm not going to take and rub my hand all over a shopping cart. I'll have a Clorox towel, supposedly a virus 99.9, wipe things down. I'll wipe my change off, not the paper, but the coin. But I go in the store every day. I go in the Aldi store. I ask the girls, I says, well, how late do you stand? Well, what do you mean? I says, well, aren't you afraid? Well, yeah, but no. So their new policy is when they come in the morning, they take their temperature. They take their temperature at noon. One of the big box stores, home improvement stores, the guy told me, 312 employees, nobody's been sick. Everybody was sick at Christmas, not now. But they're bringing some kind of digital, I don't know, it's kind of like the digital temperature you use on your car, but different. And they're going to start shooting people in their forehead when they come in the store to see if they're running a temperature. Yeah, that's fine. That should at least keep some people happy. A woman I talked to at a nursing home, she works at a nursing home during the day and a deli in the evenings at the one grocery store. She says they've been doing their temperature since this all started because their job is not to make the old people sick. So, it's like I said, the one place, 500 employees, most of the people are part-time. They don't qualify. They don't qualify for no free money. My little sister had that stroke back in September. She's been trying to get any kind of money from the garbage, whether it's state and whatever. She's been trying to get the money from Social Security. They send her a letter. She has to appear April 14th. I says, are they for real? And then 4 days later, they send a letter, due to the corona outbreak, we're not going to honor that appointment. Well, she wasn't going to go anyway because she's not going to a medical facility. I mean, these people, these are these stay-at-home jobs, that they have to feel important. They might as well, the first thing they need to do is take all the government jobs, take their money away immediately. Just they don't get any money. Now they can see how the rest of the world is living, the rest of the people that actually work to support them. The minute they realize how important those other people going to work is, I think they'll have a better understanding. But, question that always ponders in my little brain, because it's like, putting a plate on a stick and watching it rotate and watching 3 or 4 of them. How is it possible this virus stayed in China for how many months? November, December, January. All of a sudden, within 2 weeks, it come to the whole world. It was in Europe. It was in the Scandinavian countries, the UK. It's all over. Only relatively in the last 5 or 6 days, you've heard it's made an appearance in Russia. But, other than that, what do you hear?
Well, it came from the airlines. They delivered it to.
I know where it came from, but still, how do you transport something? It probably even came out of the chemtrails, guys. I mean, because you can't disperse a virus that fast. 2 weeks where you kept it in one place, now all of a sudden it's out in the open, and it came so fast. And then,
Joey, let me comment on that. That's a very good point. So yesterday I went out and I looked at our meter, and we have a computerized system that tells me how much sunlight solar panels on our farm have received. Record number yesterday. The skies, my comment to the family was, this is 1960. This is what it was like when I was young. The skies were magnificent. They were blue. You didn't see contrails from airplanes. You didn't see chemtrails from airplanes. You saw just nice, white, fluffy clouds, lots of strong sun, blue sky. Is that what you're seeing in Michigan? And then Brandon next.
I didn't see that here. I mean, today it's sunny. We had snow 2 nights ago. As it's getting closer to 5, 6 o'clock, the whole sky turned yellow. Mm-hmm. It turned yellow, and all of a sudden, I look outside, and everything's covered in snow. Apparently, up in the UP, they were supposed to get 24 inches of snow. You know, and not to say that we've never not gotten snow. I mean, we've gotten snow first week or two of May before, a couple of inches. But what I see, weather-wise, it's completely different. It's supposed to rain. It was 26 degrees tonight, last night.
Is it overcast or is it bright skies?
Oh, it's bright right now.
Yeah.
But
Brandon, what are you seeing? When Joey said UP, that stands for Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Brandon, what are you seeing? What have your skies been like for the last couple of weeks?
Well, we're just trolls here, officially called being under the bridge. But it's a little warmer than that. But still, I'm looking at snow coming down right now, flurries.
Okay.
It's been getting cold and chilly and overcast skies.
Have you seen the incidents of chemtrails, or have they disappeared over the last several weeks?
You know, I do think it is an essential service because they're still cranking them out, but seldomly, more towards the dusk. When it's just the sun is setting, it seems to be they're layering it on. But otherwise, not as much.
That was brilliant. Essential service.
Most excellent, exactly. And the other thing, Brandon, is in the evening is 10 or 11, go outside with a real bright flashlight and shine it up there and watch what's coming down. And I noticed in the middle of the night, sometimes it sounds like, I can't even describe the noise I hear outside. It's like big wind turbulence, or like a big ship is docking when you see, if you've ever been to a seaport, and you hear the tugboats pushing a big boat up to shore, and I'm just out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I looked at, the other day I took a ride out to see the lake, the big lake, and almost 2 miles out, as far as you can see, it's yellow because it's been churned up so much. But once you could look past the horizon, and that's looking off of High Bluffs, then it looked dark green out there. But something is not right, and I'll guarantee you that whatever's not right, we're not even close. We're not even close to figuring out what the situation is.
Brandon,
they were talking about. Go ahead.
When Joey mentioned shine a flashlight, straight up at night, what he was talking about, and I've done this as well. If you have a bright LED flashlight, you will see, it'll look like it's snowing at night. Little particles just floating down, flowing past the the beam of the flashlight. Have you ever done that, Brandon?
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing? You seeing the same thing?
Well, hell, there's so much stuff in the air these days. Who knows what's coming down?
But you see these particles in the beam of light. I mean,
yes.
Millions, not just one or two flying by, millions of them, right?
Oh, well, scientists would just call that dust. we're fine.
Yeah. Just
those
and by the way,
are more the essential workers, of course.
Okay, and all right, gentlemen, let me ask you each this question. Early on in January, I mentioned that the government workers were allegedly working at home, and I didn't believe it for an instant. And I said that I don't believe they're working at home. I think they're just saying, y'all go home and take your notebook computer with you and, pretend you're working from home, and we'll pay you, and you can, watch reruns if you'd like, or you can go to the Home Shopping Network. Whatever you want to do is fine with us, but we're going to all pretend we're working, and we're going to pay you, so just be quiet. Do you think that is the case still, Brandon, in Michigan, or do you think they're actually working from home?
Oh, they're working harder than ever, probably snoozing on a computer while it's open, and they have to click a button every couple minutes to keep the page from, having the screensaver pop up. And even the guys in the Michigan Department of Transportation on the sides of the road, you can see them sleeping in their cars, running, heaters on, acting like they're working. They're not doing anything.
Joey?
Same thing. I mean, the thing I noticed, the great public servants, you call them the blue team, those guys are really the most bored because they don't really know what to do. And I would like to say this properly, but I won't. They're almost really afraid to walk up to a car that they might get sick. But, if they can see the person and they feel they can bully them, they'll still do that. But, I'll guarantee you, if you had a mask on and your eyes were watering, they walk up to the car, they just walk away. Because, most of these people, and I've got family in different states that are on, they're public servants. Well, they're not the public servants. They think they're the main game, but they don't wear goggles, gloves, masks. They don't wear anything. So what would that tell you? Just all you have to do. The other day I went in a Staples store and everybody's got a mask on. He goes, "What happened?" Well, the governor said. I said, "Well, I didn't know what the governor said because I don't have any kind of communication system." But the CDC said if you want to wear a mask, if you're sick, wearing a mask will help prevent your germs from spreading. But if you wear a mask, it doesn't mean when you inhale the air, it's going to give you any protection against what's inhaling. So you put the mask out there all of a sudden, and then it makes everybody go, "Ooh, the boogeyman's here again." Why would you wear a mask if it's not going to benefit you?
All right, we'll be right back with Joey and Brandon. Both gentlemen are in Michigan. Class, you're aware that some meat processing plants in the United States have closed in the beef industry, the pork industry, and the chicken industry. All of the plants that have been closed were infected with the coronavirus, meaning employees tested positive for the coronavirus. And you know that Dr. Shuley said that the coronavirus can live on a dead body in refrigeration for at least a month. Well, Smithfield Foods Incorporated is a meat processing company based in Smithfield, Virginia, in the United States, and it's a wholly owned subsidiary of WH Group of China. So Smithfield is owned by Chinese. Now, here's an interesting thing. Just breaking news, Smithfield Foods is now the largest coronavirus hotspot in the United States. So says the CDC. Okay? So Smithfield, this is MSN.com. Smith headlines, Smithfield Foods, now largest coronavirus hotspot in U.S. CDC, Center for Disease Control, in Sioux Falls, to investigate. That's what it says. Okay, less than a day ago. All right. So now it's a hotspot. Now, how is that possible that Smithfield could be a hotspot? Well, it's owned by the Chicoms, the communist Chinese. Now, do you think that they'd be sending their people to check on their corporation, Smithfield, in the United States? Of course. So traveling back and forth from China, checking on how Smithfield Foods is doing. That's my opinion. We now have the largest coronavirus hotspot in the United States at Smithfield Foods. Very interesting. So the next question, obviously, is, so when you're, after you've lost some loved ones, hopefully you won't, but if you do, family members, friends, after this starts to die down a little bit, and your neighbor says, "Hey, listen, I got this new, oh, it's cool. It's electronics. It's a new TV, and it's the latest, and it curves, the screen curves, and it's, where's it made? It's in China." Are you going to bash your neighbor for buying a Chinese product? Or you can say, "That's great. I'm really glad because those are the guys who unleashed this man-made virus." Are you going to be furious with them? Is that going to cause a falling out with your neighbor because he's supporting the Chi-Coms who infected the entire world? Or are you going to be friends? Brandon, any thoughts on that?
Well, the news is coming out now that the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, was directly funding this Wuhan Level 4 laboratory that produced this coronavirus. That's one thing that Trump doesn't want to put onto his base because they're so loyal to him, at least the hardliner Republican side. Now, if that information was released and Fauci was part of this program, there's going to be a serious questioning of Trump and his associates. So, and the CDC is a for-profit enterprise. It's a company traded on the Dun & Bradstreet Stock Exchange. They're in almost every single large country. I don't trust any of these people.
Oh,
So
I'm pretty sure.
My next question is, if they come out with a vaccine, are you boys interested in getting it? And what would it take for you to get that vaccine?
You asking me?
Both of you.
Okay, Brandon, you go first.
Well, this is a new type of vaccine. It's mRNA vaccine. It literally has a script encoded into the DNA, so we produce RNA for the supposed antibodies of the virus. Now, if they want to rewrite a human's DNA or insert, there are serious consequences and ramifications associated with these. And the long-term testing obviously isn't going to be done because they want to push it so fast. It's a race. Just like 5G, it's a race to get it in. Who cares about the health concerns? Let's just push it.
So what I'm hearing is you're saying you're not taking it. I'm certainly not going to take it lead first. Is that what you're saying, Brandon?
You got it.
Yeah, I'm not taking it. And there is a protocol. Class, there is a protocol.
When you come back, Vince, tell them the protocol, how you'll hand off. That's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Joey wants me to tell you there is a definite protocol for when you turn in your guns. You just don't hand it to a person. There's a protocol for doing it, and he'd like me to share that with the class. Brendan is with us in Michigan. Joe is with us. Two very, very bright guys. So, class, when you're on the telephone and someone calls you, there's a protocol that you engage in for dialogue. You just don't say, hey, yo, you owe me, or give me, or here's what I want you to do. You don't do that. There's some pleasantries involved, like, hey, Joe, how's it going? And, some pleasantries are exchanged. And so there's a protocol involved. And it's been widely broadcast that there's a protocol for turning over or handing over your rifle, pistol, revolver, or shotgun. And the protocol has been shared in the following way. So, first, all safeties must be off. And when you hand over your gun to the authorities, the safety must be off. It's not polite to have the safety engaged. Then the person handing off the rifle, pistol, revolver, or shotgun must be holding it firmly by the grip. You must hold it firmly, as if in a very firm handshake. Then the rifle, pistol, revolver, or shotgun must be pointed in a very specific direction. Otherwise, you're violating the protocol, and that direction is with the muzzle toward the person receiving the rifle, pistol, shotgun, or revolver. And then the final protocol is that the finger of the person handing the rifle, pistol, revolver, or shotgun must be on the trigger. And, of course, you never want to hand over an unloaded firearm. So it must be loaded as well. So that's the protocol. So if if you're ever interested in, turning over your weapons, that's been the recommended procedure that I have heard widely broadcast on the media. Is that what you were saying, Joe? Is that what you wanted me to share?
I think you did a beautiful job, better than the first time I heard it. Because that was very, for those that have a hard time visualizing, I think they got the point. And I also think that would be the protocol when you're about to receive something you didn't ask for, it'd probably be the same protocol if they were to give you one of those vaccinations. Because, I mean, it takes a normal, 8 years, 10 years to get a vaccine approved. But these boys, they're going to have one. What did I read? They're going to have 352 million vaccines available by the end of the year. And that great humanitarian, he's like the rectal sore. What's his name? Bill the Scab Gates. Yeah, that guy. He supposedly has a nanoparticulate that he could put in there. And that way, if you get scanned, it will identify if you had that vaccination or not. So I just find that to be so interesting. And I was thinking about, I've been watching a goofy series called The Green Arrow. And they really convoluted it, made a whole bunch of superheroes out of nowhere. But the last, season 7, towards the end of that, probably disc 4 and 5, they're talking about a DNA test that they've already got a DNA, and then they can scan you and locate you anywhere, which would make sense with this nanoparticulate. Because these television shows, no matter how ignorant they are, how animated they are, their job is to install a particular idea into your subconscious. And you watch, if you go back and watch all the television shows that we grew up in, me and Vince, I don't know Brandon's age, and it doesn't matter, but me and Vince grew up different, and you watch the evolution of Andy Griffith, All in the Family, to every show that goes down to now, all the families are, they're transgenders, they're interracially mixed, and that's all a wonderful thing because the television tells you. And from what you can watch, and Disney is the best place to learn. Disney integrated every one of these scenarios way ahead of the curve. That was the opening to get the series. So if you watch everything, you go back in your mind, go back and watch the reruns because you got a lot of time now. Watch the reruns, watch the visual evolution, then go back and review the virus and think of the evolution of the virus, whether it's as bad as it is, it's nowhere near as bad, or 3 times as bad. It doesn't matter. All that matters is watch the picture. Know what you're being sold the bill of goods about. That's all I can say.
Brandon, what are your thoughts about how television has changed? Are you old enough to have noticed any of this?
Yeah, I'm in my 30s. Television was so growing up, Full House, all those TGIF shows and whatnot, but I don't watch that junk anymore. There's nothing appealing for it. One family controls it all. I don't have time to watch TV anymore. I've got about 40 projects going on, and, on a daily basis, what time I want to allocate to those projects. It's just a distraction.
Brandon, I'm so impressed, and without saying it, I know Joey is too about what you're saying. He's, and both of us are impressed with your knowledge, your knowledge base, your research, your eloquence. Can you share with us a little bit about what you do, if you want to? What
I do? Well, I run a little gardening operation out back. Get chickens, vegetables. I do like to go to the farmers markets occasionally and sell. I'm halfway into a degree with chemistry, biology. So I have some university training. I'm not too much of a dummy. I just try to stay on the frugal end of things, inform my general, friends and family what's going on. But, all up until now, they're asking me for what I think. What's your opinion? Is this a lab-made virus? What's going on? Otherwise, before then, being a prepper, and thanks to you, now we're prepared to an extent. Thank you, by the way. I just try to live simply on the outskirts. I got, 2 different lives. I work with the general public doing asphalt quality control, and then I work by my lonesome here just getting by, on as minimal as possible, which I believe is just great.
Okay, so are you saying that we helped you understand about living frugally? Is that what you're saying? Or that we helped you understand about that you can take control of your destiny? What are you saying?
I'd say you're a supporting factor in all regards with being prepared, and you're one of the few people I can trust. If I had children with, they wouldn't come back, more depraved or possibly sodomized like the people we're supposedly supposed to look up to in the mainstream media. There's only a handful of people I could say. True News, Ted Nelson Brewer, probably John Moore, you. Yep.
I know John Moore, and he's been to the house many, many times. We've traveled together. We've gone to speaking engagements together. We've been on the same stage, one after the other, that kind of thing. Yeah. Joey, do you think I'd be out of line talking about one of our boys, how he had this, how he dated one of these girls and what happened? Do you think I'd be out of line talking about that at this time?
I think it would be a word of encouragement to other families. So, especially when they have their children listen to that, because there's nothing worse than being involved in a situation that you compromise and then it fails down the road. I think it'd be a great story to tell, Vince.
Okay. So I haven't shared this. I have not shared this on the air. This is the first time. So we have, of course, family friends, or had family friends. And one of the family friends had a child, two children, and one of them was about the age of one of our boys, the daughter. Their daughter was about the same age. And I thought, wow, they're the same age. She's going to the university, big university in Missouri. And seems like a wonderful young lady. I'd really like one of our boys to get to know her. So I broached the subject, and the father and mother thought it was a great idea of the daughter. And so the two of them, they didn't date per se. They never got serious. It was, they did a couple things together. Maybe 6 times they saw each other. And they just kind of drifted apart. And I never really said to our son, what happened? Don't you like her anymore? What? I didn't say anything like that. And then, you know how you get those around Thanksgiving, those newsletters that say, here's what our family's done. We've gone to Disney, or we've gone here, we've gone there. And, a little bit of bragging about what the family's up to, kind of like the family update that you get. Sometimes you get them at Thanksgiving. Sometimes you get them at Christmas time. Well, we got one of those. And it said, the father was doing these things. The mother was doing those things. The son was doing his thing. And the daughter is now engaged. And the daughter was engaged to a person. And the name was one of those names that could be a male or a female. Okay? It wasn't like Kathy is definitely a female's name, or Josephine is a female's name, or Mary is a female's name.
That was a name like Butch.
Huh?
It was a name like Butch.
It's bad.
So then, reading further on, I realized that, wait a minute, the daughter is engaged to a girl. And I thought, man, this is going to blow over, the wedding is going to be like 18 months or so away. This will blow over. I hope it blows over. And, we get closer, and then I find out that the wedding date is set, with the next letter, and it's firm, and it's, cast in stone. And the next thing I find out is that, Vinny, I know how you feel about homosexuality, so, you didn't get an invitation, but we want you to know that you can go to the wedding and bring your wife, your family. And I thought long and hard about this, because I frankly, absolutely, positively did not want to be part of this event. And there's no priest or rabbi or minister or preacher involved. It's done with an officiator. And it was done at a restaurant, and they had a courtyard outside. And I felt that I would go with my wife. You know, we talked about it for like weeks. Like, what do we do? And we decided that we would go in support of the father because he had to be devastated, right? I mean, how do you feel when your daughter decides that she's a homo and she's going to get married? And the father told me just go to the website, and the website, let's say the name was Smith. It was not Smith, but it was Becoming Mrs. Smith. And you can go to the website and learn about the wedding. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this wedding. And you might be surprised at what happened and what the website said. But this is a story for all of you. So we're talking about this wedding, this homosexual wedding that Mrs. Finelli and I were invited to. And so we were advised to, if you're going to be going, just go to the website. And I'll make up the last name as Smith. And the website was literally Becoming Mrs. Smith, but take out Smith and put in the real last name. Now, this family is a prominent family in the village. And so a lot of people know of this particular family's name. So Becoming Mrs. Smith was something that really probably caused the parents a lot of raised eyebrows, if you will, or more. And at the wedding, there was at the ceremony, there was a sign, and typically the bride's family sits on one side and the groom family sits on the other side of the aisle, and there was a sign that said something like this. Now, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly, but it was something like this. Feel free to sit on either side since both are brides. I mean, that was just one indication of how sick this was. And when you go to the website, or when you did, it said something like this. We have everything we need, and you don't have to give us a gift. But if you choose to give us a gift, here are some suggestions. And you could click on these. So these were electronically mouse-clicked gifts. And my memory says that they were between $50 and $100 electronic funds transfer for each click. So one of the clicks, so you'd be spending, PayPal between $50 and $100 for each one of these. And there were different amounts for each item. But one of the items was entertainment. You could spend, let's say, $100 for entertainment. You could contribute toward their entertainment. Or you could contribute toward their beverages. Or you could contribute to travel expenses, which would be ground travel and air travel. And you could buy carbon credits. And you could pay toward their lodging and their meals. But none of it was, a mixer or cutlery or dishes or, bakeware or cooking utensils. Nothing, not one of these items was durable. Not one. And I had a really, really hard time with this. And I told the father, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to click on any of these things. So literally, we gave them 10 ounces of silver in one bar. So it was a 10-ounce bar of silver. And we went to the ceremony, and we left very soon. And it was something that stuck in my mind. And I teased our son, and I say, what did you do? What did you do to cause this? And that's the story. Joey, any comments?
Yeah, you got cheated out of 10 ounces of silver, huh?
Well, I said to the father, I said, they're probably going to say, Dad, what in the heck is this? And I told him that was for if they ever got in financial trouble, they could always use that because it's too good to throw away. But I didn't think that they would know what to do with it. But knowing what I know now, I would never do that again. Never, never, never. And I heard from the father of the bride, one of the brides, that even family members, blood relatives wouldn't go to the wedding because they thought it was immoral. And the only reason we went was to support the father, because I thought this guy must be in shock. I mean, I've told our boys that there's no ambiguity in our house, that if anybody thinks that they're a homo, don't come back home because you're not welcome here. And other people say, yeah, but they're your children and you love them. No, I wouldn't. Brandon, do you have any comments on this?
Was one of the PayPal items a stripper?
No. But every single item was a consumable item with no residual value. Okay. After the wedding, after the honeymoon, oh, yuck. After that, it was all gone. There's nothing left. Nothing. And maybe you could print off, who donated what, but that's it.
But Vince, this is how this story ends. All these people, and I don't care if you're gay or not, like I said, if you're gay, I don't want to see it. Just, but the point of the story is, when it all breaks, it always goes back to, if you don't have your honor and integrity, and you can't face the music, what's going to happen? Hey, I ask you one more favor. I want you to call the guy that you click the button on and ask him to be on the show for a half an hour to hear his point of view. And I won't mention his name, and you know who I'm talking about.
Well, I'll mention his name. It's Robert in Kansas. He's been calling ever since. He's not given up. He can call any time he wants. And the last time he called, he talked about growing potatoes on the moon. So the Chinese are doing it. What do I think about it? Yeah, that was this week. Yeah, right. Robert in Kansas, you're welcome to call in anytime. Let's just make it something that's relevant, please. How about that, Joe? Is that good enough?
That's more than enough. I appreciate that. Yeah. Brandon, I'm glad you took the